All right, learners, you ready to get those brains working?
Let's get those tool belts strapped on.
Oh.
We're diving into the nitty-gritty of UK construction payments today.
And let me tell you, this is important stuff. We're talking about making sure you actually get paid for all your hard work, which, believe it or not, can be trickier than it sounds.
Absolutely, it can be a real battleground out there. But don't worry, we're armed and ready with some seriously valuable insights today.
We are. We're going deep on an article by Owen Hager. He's this expert who helps contractors navigate this whole payment minefield. He calls it, get this, the hidden battlefield of UK construction.
Catchy title, right.
Right. But it's true. There's this whole undercurrent of tension when it comes to payments.
And what I love about Owen's approach is that he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He lays out the common traps, but then he gives you the tools to fight back.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about empowering subcontractors to stand their ground and get what they deserve.
Totally. So he starts off strong with this emphasis on being prepared.
Which is huge.
Right. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being savvy. Like you wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. Right.
Never.
Exactly. And Owen says one of the biggest mistakes subcontractors make is not doing their homework before signing a contract.
It's so true.
Like you need to know who you're getting into bed with business-wise.
100%. This is where a little due diligence can go a long way. Public databases, online reviews, even just talking to other people in the industry.
Oh, yeah. The construction grapevine is real.
It is. And it can save you so much headache down the line. Because once you sign that contract, you're basically hitched, right?
You're in it.
Exactly. So you want to make sure you're partnered up with someone who's going to be fair and above board when it comes to payments.
Speaking of contracts, Owen is big on having a solid one in place. And I don't mean some generic template you download off the internet.
No. We're talking about a detailed, ironclad document that covers every single detail.
Payment terms, deadlines, what happens if there are changes to the scope of work, literally everything.
Because here's the thing, how many times have we heard those dreaded words, but we agreed on?
Oh, tell me about it. That's when the alarm bells start ringing.
Right. But when you have everything clearly laid out in a contract, it's much harder for someone to go back on their word. It's like having a neutral third party there to say, nope, this is what you agreed to.
It's your backup.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our metaphorical hard hats on. We're doing our research. We're signing a contract that's tighter than Fort Knox. What else does Owen say we need to survive this construction payment battlefield?
Well, he also stresses the importance of having a financial cushion.
Okay, so not the most exciting topic, but important nonetheless.
Absolutely. Because in construction, delays happen. Unexpected costs pop up. And if you don't have a bit of a safety net, it can really throw you off course.
It's like that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Exactly. You want to be in a position where you can weather the storm, even if a payment is delayed or a client throws you a curveball.
So it's like we're financially battening down the hatches, just in case, right?
Exactly. All right, so we've got our finances in order, contract signed, we've done our due diligence. What's next?
Time to whip out our rights as subcontractors.
You got it. And Owen actually brings up a pretty powerful ally that we might have on our side.
Oh, yeah. Who's that? Our fairy godmother.
Close, but not quite. It's the Construction Act. Sounds a bit dry maybe, but
I mean, it doesn't sound like the most exciting read.
it's not exactly a page-turner, I'll admit that. But here's the thing. This piece of legislation, it lays down the law when it comes to payments in construction. So if we know how to use it, it's like having a secret weapon up our sleeve.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Secret weapon, you say? So what kind of ammo does it give us?
Well, for starters, it makes it crystal clear that payment terms have to be spelled out in the contract. No more of that wishy-washy, we'll pay you when we get paid stuff.
Because we've all heard that one before, haven't we?
Oh, way too many times. But with the Construction Act, we can push back on that. We can say, hold on, the law's on our side here. We need a clear payment schedule, and we need to stick to it.
Music to my ears. So let's say we've got our ironclad contract, everything's spelled out, but then, stuff happens, disagreements come up, payments get delayed. What then?
Well, Owen talks about this process called adjudication. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard the term thrown around, but to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what it entails.
So imagine it like this. It's faster, and it's cheaper than going through a full-blown court case.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Because nobody wants to get lawyers involved unless they absolutely have to.
Exactly. And with adjudication, you've got this independent expert, someone who knows the construction industry inside and out, and they look at the contract, they hear both sides of the story, and then
They make a decision.
they do. And here's the kicker. Their decision is legally binding.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a construction referee who can settle those payment disputes fairly.
Exactly. It's definitely something to keep in mind. And on that note, Owen also reminds us about the power of late payment interest.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I feel like so many people in construction just accept late payments as part of the job.
Great. But we don't have to. It's in our rights to claim interest on those overdue invoices.
So it's not about being greedy. It's about making sure that those late payments have consequences.
Exactly. It's about setting a precedent and saying, hey, our time is valuable and we deserve to be paid on time every time.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the Construction Act, adjudication, late payment interest. What other gems does Owen have in store for us?
Well, next he dives into a topic that's often overlooked but is so crucial, and that's documentation.
Documentation, right?
Yeah.
It's like the golden rule of, well, pretty much everything.
Seriously, it's the backbone of any successful project, especially when it comes to getting paid what you're owed.
It's true. Okay, so Owen, he's not just talking about keeping your files organized. He's talking about creating a bulletproof record of everything.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Every photo you take of the completed work, every email exchange about payment schedules, even those scribbled notes from site meetings, those are like little pieces of armor you're putting on.
Because you never know when you might need to pull out the big guns, right?
Exactly. And imagine you're in that adjudication scenario we talked about. You've got your meticulously organized records, timestamps, proof of communication, and the other side, they've got vague recollections and maybe a sticky note with a few numbers scribbled on it. Who do you think has the upper hand?
Okay, point taken. Documentation is key. Got it. But even with the best record keeping, we're still dealing with human beings here. And sometimes human beings can be, well...
Let's just say not always straightforward.
Exactly. So, Owen, he's got this whole section where he calls out some common tactics main contractors might try to pull.
Because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
If you can spot those tactics early on, you're way better equipped to handle them.
Totally. So, spill the tea. What kind of sneaky stuff are we talking about here?
Well, one classic is the old shoddy work accusation. You know, you've poured your heart into this project, everything's on time and on budget, and then suddenly, right when your invoice lands on their desk,
They find problems.
surprise, surprise, there are issues with your work.
It's amazing how that happens.
Right. But here's where those detailed records come in handy. You've got photos, emails, confirming specifications, signed off milestones. All that documentation, it's like a shield against those baseless accusations.
So we're not just building structures here, we're building cases.
Basically. And another one to watch out for is what Owen calls moving the goalposts. Have you ever dealt with that?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like suddenly the rules of the game change halfway through the project.
Exactly. New payment conditions appear out of thin air, deadlines shift for no apparent reason.
It's enough to make your head spin.
It is. But again, that's where having that airtight contract is crucial. Anytime someone tries to pull a fast one, you can point right back to that document and say, nope, this is what we agreed on.
Makes them think twice, right? Okay, so shoddy work, moving goalposts. What other red flags should we be on the lookout for?
Oh, here's a classic. The waiting on the client excuse.
Oh, yeah, the good old blame game. Oh, we can't pay you yet because our client hasn't paid us.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Your contract is with them, not their client down the line. It's their responsibility to manage their cash flow and hold up their end of the bargain.
It's like they conveniently forget who they actually signed a contract with.
It happens all the time. And then there's the ever so subtle slow roll and lost invoice routine.
Oh, I know that one. It's like the invoices just disappear into a black hole.
Or there are these constant delays, requests for more information, just endless hoops to jump through. It can be exhausting.
So what's the best way to combat this kind of like passive-aggressive resistance?
Be polite, but be persistent. Send those regular reminders. Keep detailed records of every communication. Basically, make it clear that you're organized, you're on top of things, and you expect to be paid on time.
Because sometimes a little nudge or the threat of a bigger nudge is all it takes, right?
You got it. So we've talked about the common tactics, but what about actually dealing with these situations when they arise? How do we stand our ground without, burning bridges?
Because nobody wants to work in a constant state of conflict.
Right. It's not good for anyone. And that's where Owen's advice really shines, because he emphasizes that professionalism is key.
Easier said than done when you're feeling frustrated. Really.
Totally. But even when it's tough, Try to approach the situation calmly and rationally. Stick to the facts. Refer back to the contract.
Basically, let the documentation do the talking for you.
Exactly. Now, if you've tried all that and you're still hitting a wall, then Owen suggests considering a more assertive approach. Things like maybe putting the brakes on any further work until the outstanding payments are settled.
Right, because sometimes actions speak louder than words. And we've mentioned adjudication a few times, but it sounds like even just mentioning it as a possibility can be a powerful motivator.
It definitely can, because nobody wants to go down that road unless they absolutely have to.
So it's like, hey, I'm prepared to fight for this, but let's see if we can work it out amicably first.
Exactly. And that brings us to Owen's final point. It's business, not personal.
Which is so hard to remember sometimes when you're the one staring down the barrel of a late payment.
Oh, I totally get it. But most of the time, these payment disputes, they boil down to cash flow issues, not some personal vendetta against you.
Okay, so maybe they're not out to get us personally.
Exactly. And understanding that, it can actually help us approach these situations more constructively.
Yeah.
We can go into negotiations aiming for a win-win, knowing we have the knowledge and the tools to protect ourselves if we need to.
So to wrap things up, what I'm hearing is knowledge is power, documentation is king, and communication is everything.
You got it. And never be afraid to advocate for yourself and your business.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, right? Building incredible structures and contributing to the world around us.
Exactly.
And that deserves to be celebrated and compensated fairly.
Couldn't agree more.
So, learners, there you have it, our deep dive into the world of UK construction payments, guided by the expert insights of Owen Hager. Hopefully you feel empowered, informed, and ready to tackle any payment challenges that come your way. Remember that contract is your best friend, documentation is your shield, and a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. Now go out there and build something amazing.